Hello and welcome everyone, a new episode of Money Means Business. Today we are going to discuss a number of economic files, and we are going to start with the visit of President Abdel al-Sisi to Paris, where he attended the Summit for New Global Financing Pact, and to speak about the Egyptian experience, to speak about renewable energy, to speak about green hydrogen, to speak about turning Egypt into a hub for renewable energy, not only for the Middle East, but maybe for the whole world. We are going also to speak about the private sector and the international financial program, and how the state is very keen to enhance the role of the private sector in all domains, and to say in all occasions that the private sector is very much welcomed to have its lion's share and to be more practical with all the bureaucratic procedures that they are going all to be eliminated, and all obstacles on the way to hinder investors, they are also going to be eliminated. All of this and more, and with my dear guest live here in the studio. Right after this, we are going to be back with all questions and all the answers. Welcome back. As I said, we do have a lot to speak about. So let me first welcome my dear guest live here in the studio, Dr. Hanan Abdel, our economic expert. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my pleasure.
We do have a lot to speak about, and let's start with the participation of President Abdel al-Sisi in the Financial Summit in Paris, which took place just a few days ago. And President Sisi had a keynote speech, and particularly in tackling very important issues, climate change and poverty, and to what extent they are related together in a way, and we cannot separate this from that, because this would cause that, or at least would increase its rate. Before going into details, how do you see the invitation of French President Emmanuel Macron to President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to attend this important economic gathering?
First of all, we have to mention that the relation between Egypt and France in general is very old, historical, and very strategic. Especially in what's concerning the economy and the investment, this is for years. So it's not new. The invitation is because of Egypt's role in the Middle East area in Africa. Egypt value as the center for all the African countries. And this is, again, it's confirming the very strong relation between both France and Egypt. I have to say that I was very proud, very happy with the speech of our President Sisi, especially in the final, because he mentioned a very, very, very important points about what you said and more. And my focus was in something maybe different, little bit different, because what I noticed that he talked about the illegal immigration.
Migration, yes.
And that we are hosting now in Egypt about around 9 million people. We say they are visitors, they are guests of Egypt. But this is very, very important for Europe and for the European countries, that he focused on this point beside the actual subjects that he discussed with them, because it's really very important, very serious and very sensitive point to talk about. So I was very happy that he mentioned that, although it wasn't about this fight.
It's related in a way, because since it's about climate change and poverty, and here I should quote what French President Emmanuel Macron said: no country should have to choose between tackling poverty and dealing with climate change at a summit tasked with re-imaging the world's financial system. Unfortunately, I would say it this way: the West learned the lesson the hard way, since they know that they are the main reason behind climate change with their industrial revolutions, let's say, and with the carbon emission and the blah, blah, blah we mentioned so many times. They are causing poverty in a continent like Africa. So whenever the youth cannot find their jobs, they are going to try to immigrate. So illegal immigration is going to be increasing, and they are going to find themselves in front of exodus of youth where they do not have a place for. True?
Very true. It's very connected. And we, as you said, that at the very beginning they didn't look at it as it will affect them. As long as it's far away from them, so they didn't care. They didn't give much care. But because now it's really affect them direct, they started to give more and much care than before. And I didn't say that they never had this care, but it was not really that much. And it was not really, as President Sisi said, that they devoted, for example, they donated, I think what he mentioned in his final speech was 100 billion euros for this problem. And President Sisi was very clear in what he said exactly, and I remember he said taking action, taking decision is something very good, but taking action following this decision, it's very good.
Implementation on the ground.
Of course.
He said it also this way: we as developing nations have not caused the problems of climate change, but we are the most affected by them.
It's very true. But they will be affected by the illegal immigration. Because as he said, if the people, they don't find the hope, remember in part of his speech, he said, if the people, they don't find the life, good life and the hope and the work and jobs in the area where they are affected by the climate change, they will find their way to Europe. This is the point.
Illegally.
illegally.
So it may cost them their lives. And to echo what you've just said, additionally, President Sisi emphasized the importance of implementing, and underline the word implementing, as my dear guest said, fair financing practices as the central factor in achieving sustainable development.
This is very true, because without it, nothing would happen. And they give promises, and this is what we got from his speech, Our Excellency Sisi, the President of Egypt, that giving promises all the time, and giving some promises in the conferences and here and there, but on the ground nothing happens. So the problem is increasing. It's not even the same limit like few years ago, but now it's getting more and more and more. And of course, everyone knows about this big boat, which is many people died in Greece, I think.
Lampedusa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was a disaster because it had more than 750 people from different countries.
Yeah.
So they were going where? To Italy, to Europe. And of course, it was a big drama and big disaster for everyone. But what I was saying, that this is one of the biggest boats, maybe, and biggest story, dramatic story, connected to the illegal immigration.
Yeah.
And so what he mentioned is really on the ground, is true, is happening. It's happening. And this is the last accident took place a few days ago.
Yep. And there are another boat today, also
really?
in Lampedusa, and till the moment there are 40 missing bodies, in addition to those who were unfortunately taken out from the sea by the guards. Far from this, not far from this, in a way connected to this, also among the main reasons behind inviting President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to join this important economic gathering is to deliver the Egyptian experience regarding that, regarding how we dealt with poverty, how we are still dealing with poverty, and how since 2016, since we started our economic reform, we started to gain the results now and to continue side by side. National mega projects, okay, but decent life initiative is there, taking care of the low income brackets is there, and to have them going together, not to focus on a side and to neglect the other. How do you see this as our experience, which we are conveying to the whole world?
I think they should learn from us, and they should take this experience, especially the African countries, especially that they need it.
Yes.
And that's why the international finance cooperation, he encouraged to increase investment in Egypt. And that's why also I think they decided to be one of the specialists and one of the advisors for the government proposals for the companies, and to invest more in the private sector. Why? Because they saw a result on the ground. We had very good result, and without this result, they are not going to raise their investment in Egypt. And this is the decision. They invested in Egypt for now about 5 years, I think, and maybe they invest every year with a minimum of 1 billion euros. But I think now, after they saw this Egyptian experience and how it is successful and how it is going to be a model, it has to be a model. So they decided to increase the investment in Egypt, and not just for the government sector, but for the private sector too, for that reason you told me about.
And we are going to discuss this later in our episode. But before leaving Paris, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi is very much keen also to practice what we call sidelines diplomacy. He had a number of meetings on the sidelines of the Paris gathering. For example, here it's the President of the European Council, Charles Michel. And Mr. Michel expressed his appreciation for the engagement with the President and for getting an understanding of Egypt's position on the issues raised, particularly in light of Egypt's status as a key strategic partner of the European Union. And I like to underline those two words, strategic partner. Would you please elaborate?
this is also not new, but President Sisi put us in a very high level of this strategic partnership with them. Or because what they saw from what Egypt achieved and our successful model of business, of economy, of many of the files actually. So it became, the relation became more really stronger and more strategic. And of course, President Sisi, he's our image for Egypt and for not just Egypt, but all of Africa. And you can see in all the international media how everybody was welcoming him just to have Egypt as a partner with these international banks and cooperation associations and all these finance organizations. It means that Egypt is doing very well in the files which is concerning the environment and the economy at the same time meanwhile.
Yep. And to echo what you've just said, we are building on what we are already achieving. I mean, only a few days ago, EU Foreign Policy Chief Joseph Borrell was here in Egypt and he met with the president. He had also a meeting with Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, and he expressed hope that the Egyptian-EU relations are going even to be strengthened more and more, and also described these relations as strategic. And to add to what you have just said, President Sisi met with the European Commissioner Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the World Bank Group, Managing Director of the IMF, and also Mauritanian President, and the President of the Union of Comoros, the African Union rotating chairperson, Azali Assounam. Meaning a number of very important meetings also took place on the sidelines of the Paris Economic Gathering, and particularly those economic figures.
I will tell you the first effect, and maybe it's not announced yet, but I will tell you, maybe we can be the first to say that. After the visit of the President Sisi to France and the encouragement for the French people and French investors to invest more in Egypt, because they are already here long time ago. We had a very big investor from France, very big, after that meeting. And this is the first reaction or the first effect. And his international investor, he decided, while President Sisi is there just encouraging, you know, to invest, and he sent already a letter.
Great.
And this is for oil and gas.
Okay, great.
And energy, and the green hydrogen. Okay, this section. But he sent already the letter, maybe the second day that President Sisi was there. In Paris. And this is to say, yes, we are really interested, and we are being encouraged more by the very close cooperation and this strategic partnership. And he sent a letter, and the government here is welcoming very much this man, because he's one of the strategic investors. Let me add a little part of this. Maybe we have investors come to Egypt every now and then. We never stop investment in Egypt. But when President Sisi himself is going to a country and encouraging investment, he can bring himself, I mean, the importance of the president is something else, the strategic investors. And this is what we need more than anybody else. Strategic investors means that they invest in some very high sectors, very high level sectors, like the energy, like the green hydrogen. I mean, big mega projects. And also
the future, green hydrogen, renewable energy,
and
it's the future.
Also is not about the fund or money, it's the technology.
Sure.
They bring the latest technology. We don't need just money, because money, any investor can bring money. But we need to combine money with, or the fund of the project with the latest technology in this sector, which Egypt, exactly. Yes. So visiting France from President Sisi, encourage these strategic investors to appear and to come and to show interest in investment in Egypt.
Marketing.
The highest market and his
Marketing on the highest level.
Exactly.
But to add to what you've said, Dr. Hanan, I'd like also to stress that all these strategic partnerships or relations are based on mutual respect, on equal foot, and taking into consideration that we are diversifying our relations. Simply today, Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli received his Indian counterpart, Narendra Modi. And this came upon an invitation of President Abdel al-Sisi to Modi when the president was welcomed as the guest of honor to attend the Independence Day of India, those very huge celebrations which took place in January of this year. The president was there, and it was another gesture that we are on equal foot diversifying our relations, and we are ready to have strategic partnerships with the whole world, with the East and the West, with the Americas, and with, of course, our strategic African allies. This visit of Narendra Modi, how do you see its timing first, just after the return of the president from Paris, and in the same time to strengthen our relations also after the news of the Egyptian proposal to join BRICS?
Egypt now is having a very good balance with the international relations with all the countries, East and West. India now became one of the greatest economies in the world. I mean, that wasn't maybe years ago, but it became one of the big forces of the economy in the world. I like what the Egyptian government and the President Sisi do actually as having good relation with everyone.
Yeah.
Because you cannot actually, there is some simple story in this economy. You need everyone and they need us. So talking about the equality in the relation, of course, because nobody can live in a separate island, as we say. We need something from them, they need something from us. So we are equal. So it's like what we call the cooperation between all this
win-win situation.
Win-win situation. Egypt is the center of Africa since the old days of the history. And Egypt is the center of the Middle East also.
Of the whole world.
Of
the Mediterranean, of Africa, of the Middle East,
Suez Canal,
of the Arab world, of the Islamic nation, you name it.
Exactly. It's all the history, you know, starting from the beginning. So we need them and they need us. So it's, as you said, it's win-win situation. And look at the visits coming to Egypt, to the official visits, I mean, to President Sisi, will find every week, maybe every 2-3 days, we have official visit from some different country. All of them, they are coming from East and West and North and South, because, yes, there is usually cooperation between all the countries. Maybe we need something from this country, different from that country, and maybe the cooperation is different in a field or in a direction of investment or so on. But we are the center of power in the area. Of course, we will be the center of the power in the area forever.
I mentioned this, Dr. Hanan, because I wanted to speak about the continuation, that we are building on what we have achieved. I mean, the president was there in January, then Modi came in June. I mean, they already witnessed the signing of a number of memoranda of understanding in different fields, defense, counter-terrorism, tourism,
food supplies,
renewable energy, hydrogen, culture, even, you name it. And today, the visit is back, or Modi is here to answer or to fulfill the invitation of the president, which took place 6 months ago, or to sign more memoranda of understanding, and to speak or to have meetings with the Indian community here in Egypt, the Indian businessmen, and to open new horizons of investment cooperation in all domains, pharmaceutical industries, for example,
Very
You name it.
important, yes.
And this is very important,
Very
too, particularly these days. How do you see the expansion of cooperation or opening new horizons of cooperation?
What I say in this point especially, that after we have lots of, in the world, I mean, we have this Ukrainian-Russian war, for example, so it makes many countries change little bit of the direction to some other countries to get them with some supplies of, to open more relation. I mean, we used to have all good relation with India, but now maybe the change of the world and all this what's happening here and there makes you to look more to India as strategic partner more than before.
Yeah.
It was always, but this is wider cooperation with wider or many, like you said, we need from them many things, and of course they need from us many things too.
Yes.
But what changed the direction, sometimes you focus in one direction, and once something happened, change the map of the world or change, like again, the Ukrainian-Russian war. So last time we heard that we get from India some of the maybe rice and seeds and some of the food supplies that we used to get it from the other side, the other camp. So India is growing very fast, and it became also one of the countries that joined the BRICS.
It's one of the fundamental countries in the BRICS.
Exactly.
And let's wait and see, because inshallah there are going to be very fruitful results after this visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who arrived Saturday afternoon and was received by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli in Cairo, at Cairo International Airport, and expected to have some talks with the President later on. Well, right after the short break, we are going to return back with more, so stay tuned.
Goodness unlimited, praises beauty uncharted, joy unbounded, blessings freely granted, fun and fulfillment, living in the moment. You and I meet each other, caring for one another. Hey, look around, hear the sound playing for you. Welcome to India. Welcome to India. Welcome to India, is where it all started. Welcome to India, the trip you always wanted. Jesus, Krishna, Durga, Allah, Buddha, Ramasta. Divinity is soul of the truth, a land where all worship. Find your freedom in this wisdom. Mind and body get sorted, fear and anger about it. Hey, look around, hear the sound playing for you. Welcome to India. Welcome to India. Welcome to India, is where it all started. Welcome to India, the trip you always wanted.
Welcome back. As we mentioned earlier, that we are going to talk about the private sector and about the efforts exerted by the state to encourage the private sector to continue on the right path, on the right track, and even to have the lion's share in many fields. And last but not least, Egypt signed an agreement with the International Financial Corporation, the financial arm of the World Bank, to provide advisory services for Egypt's privatization program. How do you see this, Dr. Hanan?
This is actually a very successful, very, very successful step. We needed that. And because the private sectors lead the country economy with the government sector too. And putting the international finance cooperation to advise and to give the, the advices and the logistics for this. I think this is very great.
When Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli had a press conference with the IFC Managing Director Makhtar Diop and a group of ministers, when they were here, they spoke particularly about the growing role of the private sector in Egypt. This means that we are inviting others and inviting more direct foreign investments to take their place here and to find their way into the Egyptian market, and if yes, how these signings will make them having more confidence in the Egyptian investment atmosphere or environment, and making sure even that the World Bank or the international economic entities, they do have their confidence here in Egypt, and they are keen to have their share in our sustainable development.
Do you know what the investors usually think about? To have equal chances with big companies belonging to the government or some of the authorities. Encouraging the private sector rule means that the investors will find their way to Egypt with more confidence in having their business stability, and also they don't think about the problem to compete, the competition with the public sector, which was most of the business used to be under the public sector. So the private sector, especially the investors coming from abroad, they usually be worried from the chances and the competition and so on. But giving more to the private sector, more share of the market and the business to the private sector, will encourage definitely the investors to come and invest with more money, with more confidence, with more trust that their business will be stable and they don't have any problems in the future. This is a very, very, very good step. This is 100%.
And there's a great difference between competition and competitiveness.
Yes, exactly, which is even more higher, because I have to tell you that after Feast, I hear that about 33 companies that, as Dr. Mustafa Madbouli announced, that right after the Feast holiday, inshallah, the government will announce the names of these companies, open them for the foreign investment to come and take shares in these companies.
Based on scientific studies and based on, of course, rules for the best interest of the Egyptian people and the Egyptian state in general. But let me focus here on something else which was raised when President Abdel al-Sisi met with the IFC Managing Director Makhtar Diop when he was here in Egypt. The President emphasized Egypt's commitment to advance structural reforms that enhance the role of the private sector and create favorable environment for all investors. The structural reforms are very important, and they are saying that we are going on the right path, but on scientific rules, not haphazardly, and taking into consideration that everything should be made by a plan, a pre-made plan, a well-studied plan. How do you see those two words in specific, structural reforms?
Without them, nothing will happen, or it will happen in a wrong way. And I have to tell you, that's why it took some time, because many people, they are encouraging, Egypt to do that for a few months now. And President Sisi is taking the matter as step by step with these studies, because hurrying up in this matter can cause the opposite direction, not successful, but the opposite way. So without these two, we cannot get any result. Maybe it can be worse than it was before. So of course we take our time, and since the government started to announce, that was about maybe 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago, the government proposes for these companies, but they take their time to study, to do the visibility study, and to do everything before they take the actual step on the ground.
Just to say it the way Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli said, as my dear guest said, Egypt plans to offer 32 state-owned companies in 18 sectors to strategic investors within a year as part of a broad privatization initiative. 3 billion US dollars extended fund facility program with the IMF. Many would say that $3 billion, this is too much. Others would say this is too little. Others would say that this is only a first step in a long journey. Which is which?
No, I think this is the first step in the long journey. We cannot say, I will tell you something,
Yeah.
every investment is important. We cannot say too little because we have many investments coming from everywhere, and we cannot start with big amount. Nobody can finance all of the sudden from the first step with a big amount of fund or whatever. But 3 billion is as a step. It's good for now. And we are successful already. So with the success, it will increase. So we are not greedy. We are happy with the 3 billion now. And this will increase with the work and with more of the private sector getting in and sharing in the business in Egypt. But the President Sisi is always saying that Egypt needs for everything not less than $100 billion. He mentioned that many times. And in many conferences. And I agree totally, I agree with him. Egypt is a big country. And to get what he wants, what he dreams about Egypt to be, you know, all these projects and mega projects and all the investment and many other things for Egypt and people and education and health, it's many things. Yeah, we need that, but we cannot take it as one step.
And it's not only about the, if you permit me to say that, it's not only about the mega projects, it's about also the small, medium, even macro and macro and micro projects. I mean, no economy can depend only on mega projects.
No.
But, and we made the law of financial inclusion because of that. And we took into consideration that empowering women, empowering youth, supporting the new entrepreneurs and startups is also part and parcel of our economic development. True?
It's very true, because without it, people cannot live. I mean, if we depend just on the mega projects, which are great, but this is part of the economy. It can't be all of the economy. Because people, the social or let's say, usually these countries, when they finance for the many projects and micro projects, they finance the people, the social or the society. Why? Because this society is the main pillar of the country. And without them, we can get lost.
Amen to that. And to empower women particularly, I think it proved very much successful, and it proved that the Egyptian women can do miracles when they took into consideration or when they have the will to do.
And when we talk about women, we are not talking about just they are holding very high positions now in everywhere, the ministers and the courts and even the police. I met many generals, police ladies, and they are very nice and they are very active. But I mean the women in the countryside area, in the villages, they can be very useful for their community and for their families. And we can depend on women in Egypt because they are very strong. Honestly speaking, they are very, very strong.
We are.
We are.
And we can.
Of course we can. And the president mentioned in all the conferences, any meeting, he mentioned usually the Egyptian women, that they can support. They are the pillar of the family. They are the pillar of the society.
Depending on our awareness for so many things, and to pass all problems, to find solutions for many problems and crises, it's our destiny. Well, I usually enjoy our discussion, and of course I did tonight. I'm going to leave you, Dr. Hanan, with the promise to see you again in more episodes of our program.
Definitely, but let me tell you something just before we finish.
Sure.
we are very proud of the visit of the President Sisi to France. I think it will make a huge difference
Inshallah.
in the investment from France to Egypt, and in encouraging these countries to watch their manners for the environment, and to watch what they are doing for the other countries, and to give more donations to the countries to avoid the harm of what they caused. Is not donation for nothing, but donation is to treat what they had done to these
The loss and
countries.
damage article, which was released in the final communique of the COP27. It's our right.
And this was the only president opened
Yeah.
that, and we are very proud of that.
As usual, inshallah, we are going to remain on top of the pivotal, of the countries who are playing pivotal role, not only regionally, but internationally.
Inshallah.
Dr. Hanan Abdel, our economic expert, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
input.
Thank you.
Have a
Pleasure.
very good night.
Thank you. Same to you.
To all our viewers, let's now go and watch some of the most important economic events which took place in the past 7 days. Till we meet again same time on Nile TV International. Many thanks for watching. With all my love, this was Nermeen Abdurrahman.